How about now? Can you hear me now? Okay. I can hear me now, so let's make sure, is there no echo? Are we getting an echo? Awesome. Sweet. Okay, we're up. Awesome. Okay. Hi, guys. Try two of Heroes of Yarnia. Dropping my needles. So, this is a lovely pattern written by the great Tanya Richter. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. So, I have never actually done an RPG before. I have never actually done double knit before. So, this was a learning experience for me, and I did practice before doing this. So, it's not going to be my absolute first time, but we are going to be doing a new thing. Yay! So, I have my yarn here, which is the first step. Let's make sure it's not tangled up. Here. These are my colors, this nice blue and this nice black. And it is by Rosy Green Wool, and it's Cheeky Merino Joy. I hope that's getting shown in my, yep, that's showing. It is a, uh, well, some kind of merino wool. I'm not seeing the percentage, so we're just gonna give up there. But we're going to grab the pattern, which I probably, of course, have somewhere else because that's how it's been going, hasn't it? So I'm going to pull it up on my other screen real fast. So it's super easy to just download right here. We're going to do the start and chapter 1. Where is chapter 1? There you are, chapter 1. Hiding from me. Did I grab the first chart? I did not. Chart 1. Okay. So, like I said, we're going to be doing double knitting. This was a fine pattern to learn double knitting on. It's a pretty easy start. It's not too overwhelming. So, we're going to roll for our character. Which I had nice character sheets here to write on. And I'm going to go grab those real fast. So, sorry guys. They were right here yesterday. I'd lose my head if it wasn't attached. Okay, here we go. Let's find it. Which one is the character chart? Character chart. Okay. So I also have it on the corner of the screen, but of course there's no information in it yet because we haven't rolled anything. So next time I will have it all filled out in there. I am terrible at names, so forgive me for that. Unless anybody has any suggestions, I'll be happy to take suggestions. So, first, here is chapter 1. Okay. So, like I said, this was my first RPG, physical RPG ever. The instructions were super clear. They were not hard at all to figure out. Um, Organization was just the big thing for me because, as you can tell, I'm not, the most organized of people. So, the first thing you do is you roll your stats. So, that is done with the d6. And I'm going to just roll for them. And strength is 1. Make sure that's in focus. So next is dexterity. 2. I'm so skilled. Endurance is 3. I'm sensing a pattern here. Anybody else? Another 3 for spirit. And then wisdom. Another 3. Next is warmth, which I don't quite understand what the point of that is yet, which is kind of wonderful. 6 on warmth. Defense. And defense is a 4. So now I'm going to choose for my cat. We're going to do that next. My cat's personality. Another d6. I got a 1. Your cat is a troublemaker, not to be trusted around yarn. They once felted an entire skein of cashmere. Do not trust the belly. Ooh, not sure I like this feline friend. Sounds like a demon. Okay, special skill. A d10. Where's my d10? This one is the d10. Right? Yes. And I got a 9. Does that show up okay? Okay. Yes. So that means the special skill is my cat is a magic cat. Why is your cat teleporting on a fireball? Good question. That is something I would like to know as well. So my special skill is magic cat. Breed is next. You can sort of see I'm using the same one that I used before. So I have some of them circled already for my last feline friend, who is radically different. 12. This one's the 12 here. Breed 1. Calico. I like calicos. Actually, I don't not like most cats, so you know, I'll phrase that correctly somehow. Calico. So that means that it's got a 4 strength, 3 defense, and 10 HP. Hit points, or however you want to say it. I do play a lot of video games, just, you know, not physical games. Okay. So, for things like classes, I'm just going to roll for those. So there are 8 classes listed on here. I'm going to roll to see what I can get. That way it's just a little bit more random and fun. And I got a 4, which is a dual knitter. Knitting adventurer who practices with weapons in each hand. The skill is able to jump up or down 2 numbers on a die. For example, changing a 3 to a 5. Usable twice per clue. Cool. So that means my class is a dual knitter. Okay. So let's see. I'm not seeing any limits on what a dual knitter can wield. And I'm not quite sure if that weapons in each hand means I can choose 2 weapons or not. So we'll just roll for 1 for now. Anybody have any ideas on that? I don't. Like I said, I've never done this before, so, you know, it's a learning curve for me. Hopefully helping others get over any learning curve that they might have. So there are 10 weapons. So I'm going to roll that d10 again. Again, randomizing the weapon selection. Make it a bit more interesting. And I got a 10. At least I think that's a 10. I hope that's a 10. No clue! What? That's a great name, by the way. What? Okay. 10 would be the last one. A short DPN. A short dagger-like double-pointed needle. Don't leave it in the couch or you'll never find it again. So true. So true. I shall not tell you about the multiple of times that I have misplaced my DPNs in the couch. A couple times. So, +1 strength. So now I have 2 strength and +2 dexterity. So I have 4 dexterity. Woohoo! Going up in the world. Yay! So with my armor, I am 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to roll the 6-sided die. And if I get a 6, I'm just going to roll again. because there's only 5. And I got a 5. Well, that rolled off the table. I'm going to try again. 2. Okay, so that 2 is knitted scale mail. I also need to put in my weapon. I haven't written that down yet either. Weapon was short. DPN. So knitted scale mail is medium armor. It's a sweater knit with scale mail over it. Ooh, that sounds gorgeous. Warm, a bit heavy, and built to take a blow. +2 defense. -1 dexterity. +2 warmth. So that brings my dexterity down to 3. My defense up to 6. I wrote 6 instead of 2. I did the math in my head instead of, writing it out. And a warmth of 8. Oh no, that might bite me in the butt. I don't know yet. So for the alignment, I'm just going to go for neutral because neutral's easy. And I don't know how to spell, so we're going to okay. That's everything on this page. And next is, where did it go? Here we go. Okay, my yarn is a nice wool. So I'm going to go with wool. And then, so with element, I have this lovely blue. So I'm going to roll between water, wind, ice, and time. Because those to me are good with blue. So we're gonna roll. Something good, please. 2! Ice. No, wind. Wind was 2. I said water, wind, ice. Time. Okay, so I really wanted ice, but it's why we roll. Okay, so my level right now is 1. And we're gonna name our character where I draw a complete blank. Because like I said, I'm not very good at the naming. So I'm probably gonna default to fandoms. Because that's where I know things. So I'm gonna go with Mrs. Norris as my cat. Always wanted a cat named Mrs. Norris. I've always wanted a Maine Coon cat named Mrs. Norris because Maine Coons are gorgeous. And a friend of mine had one, and she was the sweetest cat in the world. Loved her to death. So, for our character name, should I go for another Harry Potter or should I go for something else? A new fandom. Huh. Let's see. I'm going to do Luna. I don't want to do Love Good because that's way too simple. Um, it's a good last name. Yarnwinder. Do something nitty. Kind of like Sidewinder, but not. Okay, so that means my skill is plus or minus 2 times 2 per clue. That's my first skill. Correct? Okay. Thank you, oh what? I love the name too. I'm glad that it was not something completely ridiculous, which is where my brain goes first. Okay, so we're all set on our skills. Or is that the special ability? That might be the special ability. It's okay, I'm going to be putting it on the screen later. It doesn't actually matter if I do it wrong on here. Okay. So, chapter 1, your journey has begun. Because your set decided it would. So, ignoring your rumbling stomach, you and your feline companion step out onto the road. The inn you stayed in was at the edge of a quaint-looking small town. A signpost next to the road states, "Welcome to Cast On Inn." Underneath, you see 2 bulleted directions. Double knitting. Using your preferred method of casting on, cast on 50 stitches, pairs, for a total of 100 stitches. Place stitch markers every 10 stitch pairs. Now, my name, the Crazy Knitter, is not just a name. I'm a knitter on the edge. I don't own any stitch markers. I don't own any stitch markers because I like to fly by the seat of my pants. This sometimes goes horribly wrong, and sometimes it doesn't. So, we're gonna just try it and see how things happen. So the second bullet point is color in the round. I've done that before. I know how to do that. We're gonna do something new. I know, right? I just kind of see how things go, and I honestly don't mind pulling out and then starting all over again. It doesn't really matter if things go to the frog pond because I enjoy knitting so much that I just don't mind. Okay. So the way I saw to cast on online was we're gonna bring this closer to the camera to put it together like this and then cast on that way. Now I do the backwards loop cast on and I'm gonna do it a bit looser than I normally do it because the one I have had a bit of a pull at the bottom and I didn't like that. And so when normally I do this, I take it and yank it towards it, but I'm not going to do that this time because I don't want it to be too tight. And this may not be the way that everyone does it. I don't know because, again, this is my first time. I also totally just noticed that I have 2 center pull balls that I did not take from the center of, but you know, again, knitter on the edge. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, halfway there, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 40. That was right though. My screen went blank, so I kind of panicked, making sure it wasn't going away on me again. It'd be terrible if it was the second time in a row that this just like died on me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. Okay, I was right. 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50. Woohoo! Okay. So I'm going to just do a blank first round, just because I like to have some kind of edge between whatever I'm doing and the first row. So the first thing to do for me is to decide what's going to be the main color and what's going to be my secondary color, because even though it's, two sides that are complete opposites, I still need something to connect with my brain, or else I completely mess up and have no idea what I'm doing. So my main color is going to be this black, because I want that blue to be that nice contrasting color. So black main color, blue contrasting color. That way it's just, on those charts, when I'm going one way and the other, I can easily figure out where I'm going. Now that trick may not work with everyone, or it may help. Who knows? But that's what works for me. So I'm going to do just one solid black row. So knitting the blacks and purling the blues. And if they're twisted around so that the blue is first, you can just reach under there and get the black first again. And all this twist that I left in my yarn, I use that later. Am I too high? Yeah. So I use this later to help me twist around, like at the edges. So black first. Now I always find that this first row is always the row that trips me up the most. Doesn't matter what I'm doing, I'm always slower on this first row. And I'm going to get much faster as things go on, which is another reason why I put a solid row first in anything I do, because this row just trips me up so much. So, a little bit about myself. Why are we watching this lady do this? Well, I have been knitting for over 15 years, almost 20 at this point, and I love it. I used to do it all the time, but I just got a new job and it's limited my knitting time. And so I need to take time for myself to do it. I went a whole month without knitting. It was crazy. It's like, what? Who is this person? Okay. Did I do that right? Yes, I did. I'm good. I told it that story. I went with a out knitting and she looked at me and she went, "How are you still sane?" And I went, "'Cause I may not have had time to knit, but I did have time to look at my yarn and, fondle it as you do." So, and that's what you do. So I have 4 minutes between now and when I have to leave. That is perfect amount of time to go and cuddle with some yarn. So my mother taught me how to crochet when I was very, very young. I was like 5. I then decided I liked the look of knitting better, which they're both great crafts. I've kind of let my crochet skills lapse quite a bit, but I found a visual aid to knitting and I taught myself. And then my grandmother, who used to do knitting a lot, she taught me just a bit more. And so she did this. I think it's continental knitting. Am I wrong? Throwing, I think. Maybe it's picking. I never remember as a self-taught knitter, some of the terminology is still lost on me. I only really became a big part of yarn stores and active conversion of people. I taught my roommate how to knit since um, probably 10 years. So this first row is going really slowly. So I did teach knitting at Michael's for almost a year. And then that went away because for some reason nobody wants to knit in July in this house. Imagine that. And I'm like, but it's the perfect time to make all your Christmas gifts. So this first row is kind of going to come out looking a bit funky. And that's okay. Don't panic. Hold on to that towel. Hitchhiker's Guide for anyone who doesn't understand that reference. And it's okay if you don't. I'm a giant nerd. And I will make plenty of references that people don't necessarily know. Although I am speaking to a group of knitters, so you never know. And even knitters who want to do D&D type knitting. There goes my phone. Makes loud, obnoxious noises. Come on, first row. I feel like I've been doing you for forever. After knitting in classrooms and having to pay attention to the teacher and knitting while studying and, knitting wherever I can get a few seconds to do it. This slow first row is driving me insane. Come on. Looks like I'm over halfway. And it looks like that first row is, or the cast on is not going to be too tight, which is nice. I've also never worked with this yarn before, and it's a little bit more splitty than I'd hoped. Whoa! We're just gonna silence you. Okay. Okay. Where did I stop? I stopped on a pearl. So, once again, we are knitting all the blacks and purling all the blues. So because I cast on the two colors together, some of them are a bit touchy-feely. They just want to be close to each other. They want to cuddle. So some of that is trying to get the two detangled so I can give them another color to cuddle with. I'm also not usually used to talking to the already converted. Usually when I'm showing people this, I'm going, Look at this, it's so easy. You can totally do it. And I get success about half the time. Or at least people humor me about half the time. Which it is. It's so easy. Everyone can do it. Everyone should do it, actually. You know, I'm going to change my statement. Everybody should knit. It's a good skill to have, even if you don't do it all the time. And then there's an appreciation of the handmade. Plus, it's been proven to de-stress. It's been sort of proven to stave off the effects of Alzheimer's and dementia, although they're still doing a bit more research on that. I want them to actually publish their findings so that I can cite great articles for people who are interested in that. Of course, that's, research that's a bit harder to do because everyone reacts differently to things like Alzheimer's and dementia. And so if you're, um, if you have a stronger reaction to the Alzheimer's, even if you're a knitter, that may not help entirely because it is a disease and I'm getting, sad here. So we're going to go back to happy topics. I'm almost done with this row. Four, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 more stitches. 10 more double stitches. Okay. So once these stitches are uncombined, in like this row, they should be a lot easier to get into and a lot less splitty. Almost done, almost done. And then we can continue on our journey through the land of Yarnia. Magical land. Hope and wonder. If anybody hasn't seen Charlie the Unicorn, at least the first one, go look it up. It's awesome. Just saying. Love Charlie the Unicorn. It's really old. It's like 10 years old, but it should still be on YouTube. 4 more stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yay! We're done with that first row. And I'm going to, it's gonna focus. Put on my hands. So that's what that first row looks like. Is that focused okay? Maybe down here. So yeah, it kind of looks a little funny where things kind of show through just a bit. But, when you keep going, it won't show nearly as much. I promise. Charlie! Okay, so we are done with the cast on. So we are now leaving. Cast on in. Your feline companion lets out a loud meow, long meow, excuse me, directing your attention away from the board and towards the pathway through the town. You wander down the road, noticing that the stones are arranged in an interesting pattern. Roll a d10, find the number you rolled, and knit that chart. I got a 1. Now my charts are on the computer. Okay. So that chart kind of looks like a wave. Cool. So because I started on the first one with my quote unquote main color, I'm going to start from the back of chart 1. So at the bottom of the page, it says, 1 through 10, and so on to 50. I'm going to start over at the 50 so that I'm going backwards, so that I'm doing my black side going correctly. So this is where I mostly utilize my pre-twist, because on my last one I forgot to twist the first row a couple times and I have a pretty sizable gap in the chart, or in the sides, and so I can, stick a few fingers in there and look inside, but I don't want to do that on this. This one's going to be pretty. This is my not practice one, so when I go into this first one, I'm going to go around and slip it so that I'm making sure that you can see me okay, because I moved it to see the chart. Okay, yeah. So that made, let's not get the tails in there. That would be bad if I started knitting with the tails. Okay. So now I have this nice little wrap in here. And I come over and I purl that black side. Now, if your chart starts with the opposite color than what it was before, you don't really have to do that. I still do it because I like knowing that my sides aren't going to separate, but you don't have to. So this next one is the opposite color. So I'm going to knit into the black and purl the blue. And then pretty much from there on until the very end, it's just the opposite. So that's fairly easy on this, because that means that you'll do 2 black, 2 blue, 2 black, 2 blue, and so on until just before the end. So it actually makes it fairly easy to keep track of, especially on this first row, which at least to me was the absolute hardest to keep track of. I kept making all kinds of mistakes my first time. And of course, I just made a mistake. So we're going to tank back just a bit. Okay. So you see, I knitted this black one, I knitted this blue one. Now I have to knit the black one again, not the blue one. Black, blue, blue, black. So mistakes one so far. Let's keep it at one, right? Although if I do more serious one, I can show you how I fix that. So, where am I? Nope, mistake number 2. It's talking and knitting at the same time. I don't do it very often. And not only that, but trying to come up with more stuff to talk about. So, usually when I'm talking and knitting, I'm having a conversation. And people are talking back to me. And mistake number 3. I keep changing colors too quickly. See, you have 2 black, 2 blue, 2 black, 2 blue, 2 black, 2 blue, black, blue, black. I keep doing that, and that's my problem, is I'm throwing myself off. And blue, blue. It's like when you're a kid and you learn to count by twos, and then everything there on out is counted by twos. Or that might just be me. Actually, I'm curious. Did anybody else do that? Or did I? I almost learned how to forget to count because I was just so excited that I could count by twos. What? Says I've made so many mistakes on this scarf. Some of them I fix and some of them I just leave. Lol. Yeah, I sort of did that with my other one too, but because, I can just hide those and nobody else will notice. You guys will all see this. You guys will all know when I make mistakes. There's accountability. I um I had the unicorn chart, and for those of you who have seen the unicorn chart, it like the horn is right above the nose, and I thought it was the line that goes all the way across to the tail, and it's actually one above it. And I had to undo my entire row because I was really upset with myself. Oops. So, and that's just the head and the horn. But I do like my stuff to be fairly neat. Although if it's too neat, I then end up giving it away. I have so many hats where I've just gone, I've spent so much time on this hat. I love this hat. This is my favorite hat. You look cold. Have a hat. And I'm a free giver of my knits, and I don't buy cheap yarn, so that can get to be somewhat of a problem. But So if I started, supplementing my stash with some more affordable stuff, I could probably do that a bit more, but and it's not that I don't like the cheap stuff. The cheap stuff can be fine. In fact, some of it's excellent, but I like I've gotten so used to my nice wool that just like is butter through my fingers. And some of it's good for, specific jobs. You don't want, you know, cashmere for baby toys. That's just a terrible idea. That will not hold up in any way. With that, you'd want some kind of acrylic mix of some sort. Also, so that it can get washed because babies are adorable and don't know how to not spit up on everything. Oh, another mistake. Oops. Yes. Just one this time, though. I caught myself right away instead of getting 3 stitches down and another mistake. We'll get in the rhythm eventually. The rhythm is really where you need to get it. Otherwise, and I had this with the other one too. I didn't really get into the rhythm until halfway through that first chart, but you do get it eventually, I promise. I think. Did I make a mistake somewhere? I'm feeling like this is wrong. Yep. See, okay. Here, I did a single blue stitch, and so I kept going, and so the purl and knit are both blue, whereas I want the purl and then knit to be blue. And so I just messed up, so now I have to take back 10 stitches. Otherwise, the next row is going to be way off. Uh, so this house that I am renting does not have very good lighting. There are no ceiling lights in this entire area. And so I have a little lamp shining on the wall. So I don't know what they were thinking. Okay, I am to my mistake. Okay. So this time we're gonna pearl blue instead of purling black. And wait. Nope, I didn't go quite back far enough. I need to figure out how to put a little mistake counter on my screen. So sorry, I just lost my train of thought. I have not eaten enough today. My energy levels are low, low, low. Okay, so blue. So sometimes I forget to eat. Just not, it's just you get busy and then you just forget. So, come on. Okay, I need some water. I need to open my water. I'm not really used to talking this much. I'm kind of a quiet person. So, my throat's getting kind of dry. So, I'm taking a public speaking course this semester, and one of the things that we're talking about right now is stuff like how to gain your audience's attention and all that fun stuff. But we had to do, an introduction speech, which I think is pretty standard in any communications course because you're trying to communicate about yourself. And so my teacher had us bring in two objects to describe us or to show who we are. I brought in a ball of yarn and a picture of my spinning wheel. And those were my objects. And my classmates were so confused. Like, what are you doing? What is this? These are not normal things that everybody has. What would your two objects be? If you had to pick two objects to describe who you are, what would they be? It's not always a easy answer. Okay, so these last two stitches are both main colors, so I need to no, they would be blue. Uh, but they shouldn't be. Or they should be, but my last stitch was a blue, which means that it would make my last 3 stitches blue, which is not correct. So, let's troubleshoot. Did I make a mistake somewhere? Did I miscount? I might have miscounted. There you are. See this lovely blue, black, blue with no, or there's a single black and a single blue right next to each other. Shame on you. Shame on you. I've already lost track. What is that? Mistake 5? Oops. I'm gonna have to take back. Again, now tinking in this is hard because you have to make sure that you're getting both stitches, or both ends, because if you catch it like here in the middle where the blue is underneath and the black is on top, when I go over, it might catch that black up there. It's not gonna, come out correctly. So you really have to pay attention not only to which stitch you're pulling or tinking, but where your yarn is behind it. Now, where that really comes in is on those purl stitches, because that's where it really gets caught. I'm gonna adjust. I'm sorry. My legs are starting to fall asleep there. Okay, so where's that? See, this is where those stitch markers are really helpful, but I lose them, they fall off. I find that more time on me is wasted dealing with the stitch markers than actually using the stitch markers. It's such a waste of money for me. So instead of spending money on new stitch markers, I spend it on new yarn. And then it's just, and like right now, the only reason I'm frustrated with myself is because I'm sure it's totally fascinating watching me do the same row 6 times. So normally I wouldn't mind at all because I love knitting, and knitting the same thing over and over again does not bore me. I enjoy it, actually. Okay. Okay. So we're back here, and I'm going to do the double black and the double blue and the double black. So when you see that chart that has that line of, one color, the next color, one color, next color, one color, the next color, it means you have to do that double. That way you are doing the one and the next and the one and the next on the next side instead of one and then the next, because that just makes it a solid color on both sides, which is something new to think about with double knitting for me. So that's just something to think about, which is something new. So, how's my connection, guys? Is it doing pretty good? I hope it's pretty good. My computer should be also really good after the overhaul it got. So, hopefully it actually lasts. I had to replace my motherboard and my processor, which is not as bad as some things it could have been, but not exactly fun either. And then the problem the other day was the video card kept getting unseated and would not take. Well, okay, that was a secondary problem. That was the problem that we really had issues with. The first problem was my USB drivers kept uninstalling themselves. The USB drivers are where things like my cameras are at. Hi! And, oh, what is playing Skyrim, which is one of my favorite games ever. Love Skyrim. So, Skyrim came out. I told all my friends, goodbye. You won't see me for a week. When it remastered. Yeah, I disappeared. I disappeared into Skyrim for a while. So here's another example of that row looking all funky there. So you can see all the pearl bumps showing through, and you can see the colors here. Just, it doesn't look like a pattern yet. And that sort of freaked me out the first time, because every time I look behind me, I'm making sure that this camera's in focus, just so, you know, you know. So, so don't panic. It'll be fine, I promise. My headphones have a really long cord, and I keep having to pick it up off the ground. Okay. So, row 2 is 3 in the middle, and then, so it's making kind of like a wave like this. So the first 2, and I'm coming back from that first side again, because remember, black was gonna be my main color. So, here again, I'm going to take this twist to my advantage and have it so that it twists around there. And then the blue. And I think here, so 2, 3 blacks, which of course means 3 black then blue, black then blue, black then blue. And then 3 blue then black then blue. So this is, I'm knitting, I'm not purling. I'm trying to purl, and yet that's wrong. So blue, black, blue. Except no. Black, blue. And then blue. and then black. And then 3 blacks again. So we're gonna have this black, blue, black, blue, black, and then 3 or 4 because this next one's gonna be black too. 4 of these doubles next to each other. So that has been the way that I have found to kind of break down the chart so that I don't think of it as a chart. And that way I'm not going, what's next on the chart? Where am I? Without stitch markers. I'm doing more of a counting, and it works for me. So instead of having a picture in my head, I'm doing more of a row picture. So where am I? Okay. So that's 1, and this is 2, and that's 3 blacks. And that way I can easily look at it and go, here's my 4 pairs, and here's my 2. It's going to be 2 doubles together. So this next one's going to be blue. Excuse me. And then black, blue, and then blue, black. So you can see here that 2 together of the different ones, and then the pairs here. So as long as it looks like that when I look at it down the road, it'll be fine. So I'm on contrasting. That way I don't have to worry about where I'm at. It does get harder with the longer charts, but I have a trick to that too, which I will explain when I get there. So that's how you go insane and go without stitch markers. It's just like cabling without a cable needle. First, it seems really scary because you're dropping stitches, and then eventually it's, oh yeah, I got this. It's okay. Don't worry. Although cabling without a cable needle is awesome because then you don't have to worry about finding your cable needle, which, as stated, I'm not very organized and lose cable needles, which is why I prefer the circular needles because then I don't lose them. So if I put down a project halfway through, I still have both needles with me. I don't have to go hunting for my second needle. So here, I just moved my attention elsewhere, and I have 1, 2, 3 pairs. And so I know now that I'm going to finish up this last pair, and then I'm going to go to that back and forth. So I don't have to worry about where I am in the chart. I don't have to worry about, you know, if I made a mistake or not. I can look at it and just go, oh yeah, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm doing. And sometimes it's harder to figure out what that row is going to look like at first. But once you get past that first bump in the road of whatever you're doing, you'll understand. If you're a visual person, um, it should be fairly easy to notice. Okay, that looks good. That's where I needed to be. So and see, now I just forgot where I was, so I glanced down and looked, and I have 4 pairs, and so I am on this back and forth now. Okay, and now I have I went way too far, I think. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4 pairs, and then 1, 2, 3, back and forth. So I did go too far, so another mistake, yay! Yeah, I really want to put a fun counter up to do something actually fun when I make a mistake, so it's not so boring. But note to self, find a way to make mistakes fun. Okay, so okay, so now I'm at that double again. Oops. Um, 2, 2, 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 pairs and doubles. Okay, that's a pearl, not a knit. I did that in my other one too. I purled instead of, or I knitted instead of purled a few times and had to stop and think about what I was doing. That's not right. Let's not do that. Okay, let's see. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4 pairs and then way too many doubles. So we're gonna take back just a bit. This yarn does not like to be tinked. It's very sticky to itself, which is very nice on some levels. Less nice when you need to tink. Nope, wrong. Okay, where was I? Blue. I'm on blue. Okay. So this is going to be a short session tonight because I do have 2 papers due tomorrow, um, which I haven't quite finished either of them. But I'm enjoying this immensely, even if you can't tell because I'm concentrating. So I'm going to give it another half hour. Hopefully I will finish up with my chart at least, and we'll be able to start with part 2 of the um, next part of the clue next time. So, and I am going to untangle this yarn a little bit later, just so it's just a little bit less sticky. Maybe that'll speed things up somewhat next time. I just didn't want to take the time to do that in here. It might have sped things up, but you know, I'd rather just get into it, and I'm sure you guys would too. Because it's kind of boring watching me just untangle yarn. Well, that's another crazy thing that I enjoy doing, untangling yarn. You have a skein to untangle? Send it to me. I enjoy that. It's so satisfying untangling a good skein. Okay. Ooh. That's why people actually do center pull balls from the center. Okay, so I am 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 doubles. Oops. No more doubles. 4 doubles. There we go. That would be 1, 2, 3. Wait. 2, 3, 4. Nope, that was 6 doubles. I can't count, apparently. We're gonna try this again. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 doubles. Now we're doing I need a better way to describe these because they're both pairs. They're just pairs of different types. Opposite pairs? Similar pairs? That also seems a little, doing pairs of the same now. And that makes it 3 pairs and then 4 pairs. And I think then at the end, which I do have to turn around and look at my chart. The last 2 colors are going to be black. So I just started knitting the pearls and knitting the pearls and purling the knits. So we're gonna fix that. And that makes it okay. So Let's knit the knits and purl the pearls. Otherwise, it's going to look a little bit funky. 2, 3, 4. Okay, so these last two ones are going to be black mane. So that means black knit. And there we go. Chart 2 done. And you can see that the row below looks a little bit more actually there. And it'll look even better when we keep going. So this next row is just solid. So it's just going to be every other one, just like that first row I did. I'm just pulling these tangles down just a tiny bit so that I have a little bit of space. Okay, so that means I need one of those twists back for that first one. So there's our twists there. And that means eventually, if I do continue like this, it will work itself out eventually. You don't have to worry about that too much, but it does slow you down just a bit having those twists, but not too much. Mostly what's slowing me down is I don't do color work very often, and I do it on this same hand, which a lot of people do it on both hands, but I am rubbish at right-handed throwing, so I don't do it very often. This is a lot faster for me to do than to try and juggle two hands that I'm just not good at. So, and that's one of the things you need to think about when doing color work is if you're, if you know you're going to be slow at something, thinking about whether, thank you, I got some sugar to get me through the next 20 minutes. I'm going to eat some of the sugar. It's a sugar kick. Yay! Nerds rope are great. We got a giant box of them at Sam's Club, and we are being very good and letting them linger a bit so that we don't just eat them all at once, which we may do sometimes because I have no self-control. I would totally just eat all of them at once, and that's not good. That's not good for you at all. So, you can see here a bit of that, it's starting to show through. It's starting to show through quite a bit. So, eventually, it'll look even better. And so you just have to keep going and not panic like me and think that all you're doing is terrible and it's like doing lace for the first time. You're not actually knitting ramen noodles, I promise you. You're really making a thing and it's really gonna look beautiful, but you have to keep going and learn how to block it before you can actually see what's going on. Thanks, oh what? It is nice progress. I'm very pleased with it. I mean, I do need to work a little bit on my tension between the two, but you know, that it's not that bad. It'll look even better when it comes down because a lot of that, I can see at least some of these stitches are sticking out just a bit, but I noticed that on mine too. Oh, what says lace scares me. Lace shouldn't scare you. Lace is really, really friendly, I promise. And I will find some good pattern to suggest because lace is wonderful. Lace is quite great. And really it is magical when you block it and just the open work just shows it's gorgeous. And I have really no need for making lace things and I have way too many lace things cuz I just enjoy doing lace. But that's another thing where I go, "You look cold. Have a shawl." So, I did that once at a family event. It's like, "You look cold. Have a thing." And it was like August or something. Not exactly a cold time of year. And I gave it to her because she had been admiring my lace scarf, and I was like, "Well, here you go. You're admiring it." And it wasn't, I overheard her admiring it with somebody else, and so she she walked home with it. Ooh, I can feel that sugar kick. Quite wonderful. I love a good sugar kick. So I'm thinking that we're not going to get through this first chart because I am about halfway through the chart right now. I'm actually exactly halfway through the chart. But we're going to try. I'm going to speed knit as if my life depended on it and not make too many mistakes. Knock on wood. And I think next time I'm going to move this camera to be more centered. And hopefully that will make it a little bit easier to see. It'll make it harder for me to see my chat, but better for you guys to see my work. I also need to get a lamp so that I have my computer right now providing some light, my laptop. And it is helping. I can see it on the screen, but it definitely needs a little bit of illumination, especially with these darker colors. I'd rather you'd be able to see them a lot well. A lot well. Oh, grammar, you fail me. But I hope you know what I meant. A lot better. So, okay. So now we're back to the every other color, which means two in a row instead of actually every other color. And I'm pulling my twists down a bit. And pulling a twist back up. Make sure it's going in the right way. Don't want it to add more twist. We want it to add less twist by doing that. Okay. So the first color is going to have two because there's this little gap here before that first color, and so we are going to do the first two being, so the first two stitches are black, and so black, blue, black, blue. And then after that is when it starts in on the blue, black. And okay. So far so good. No mistakes yet. Knock on wood. So what I'm going to have to do is after this knitting adventure, which is probably going to take a while, I'm going to have to do a lace feature of some sort to show, oh, what? That lace is not scary. That lace is fun. And that when you're done, lace magically opens up to be just quite wonderful. So there's very few techniques in knitting that I haven't tried yet. Entrelac is one of them, which I hope I'm pronouncing that right because I'm terrible at pronouncing things I've only read. Um, Beading while knitting is another one I've never tried. I think that's all I know of that I can think of that I've never done before. Now, I like the look of entrelac when it's subtle. I'm not a huge fan of those all over entrelac socks or sweaters, but I love a good sweater that has a nice entrelac yoke around the chest area. But I've never tried it before. I remember the first time I saw it was actually on one of those sweaters that had the subtle accent of it. It was a friend of mine showed up to a party in it, and they luckily knew me at that point, and so me going up and saying, "Can I just stare at your sweater for a minute or two?" was not as weird as it could have been. Because, you know, sometimes knitters have that magnet effect of you're wearing a very pretty sweater. Can I poke at it and look to see how the stitches are together and you know, do things that normal people look at you like, really? And I've gotten a few looks at the store when I've turned things inside out to see how they were constructed. And people just don't understand. It's so sad. But, you know, it helps me. It helps me become a better crafter if I know how things are done. If I know how they work. I know how they don't work. That's also a good way to learn. Which is why mistakes are not bad things, because they teach you eventually how to not do something. What's that quote by who is it, Edison? I have not failed 1,000 times. I have figured out 1,000 ways to do it better, or something. Or I don't know the exact quote off the top of my head, but it's a really good quote, and it applies to many things, including knitting. So, this to me was a really good introduction to double knitting. I was really happy with this pattern and how it kind of, in a way, holds your hand, because the first couple patterns are very simplistic. They're very short. They're easy to do. Um, it doesn't really tell you how to double knit, but it does give you a lot of room to learn. It doesn't just like throw you to the wolves and go, here, make this gorgeous, beautiful thing that, you know, is kind of intimidating. So I really enjoyed working on this pattern to uh, to learn new things and a new technique to me. And it was really fun to do. I would definitely buy another pattern from her. I know I have a couple friends who have bought a couple patterns from her, and I would totally do it. I may have made another mistake. Where would I make another mistake? Because I got to the end and I have 3 black stitches in a row, and there's supposed to only be 2. So let's see. Please don't be too far back. Please don't be too far back. I don't even see it. Let's see. Another way to figure out if you're working is if these lines match up. So I have these 2 stitches down here, and it's 2 of the same sections. So, what? My knitting group starts in 5 minutes. Gotta go. Thank you so much for staying the beginning of your Yarnia journey with us. Thank you, what? Thank you for commenting. Thank you for being a part of this. I really enjoyed chatting with you. It was very nice. Thank you. Have a good time at your knitting group. So this blue stitch is right above this blue stitch, and that's a good way to make sure that what you're doing is correct. And because I can't find my mistake right away, that's how I'm going to figure it out. Am I sure that Nope, I'm good because the last stitch is black, but the one before that is not. So I'm actually perfectly fine. I just freaked out for no reason. Okay. Okay. Well, I'm gonna stop here because I just don't have time to start a new row. But I do hope that you learn something. I do see a small mistake in my knitting, and but that's okay. I purled instead of knit right here. And actually, I do have time to show you how I fix that. So I'm just going to slide until I get to that point. And it didn't even show you the camera. I moved it too far away. So let's see. Okay. So this is going to sound really, really scary. And I don't have a crochet hook, so I'm doing it freehand, which might be even more terrifying to you. I don't know. But I'm just going to drop that stitch. And I'm going to pull it down just a bit. So that's 3 stitches down, and there's that purl right here, that offending purl. So, taking my needle and pulling that out. Now, because I purled it, I moved this, it has a name. I'm so tired. I'm sorry. Float. I pulled the float to the front instead of the back. So I now need to push that under there. And now the next row is a black one. And then there's another black one, which is here. And then the next one should be that blue one. And then I went as if I had a crochet hook on the end of here, but I actually didn't. And there you go. All fixed. So it is going to be a little bit looser there right now because the way I did it, it does pull a bit on that yarn, and it creates a bit of a, you know, pull. It pulls on it. It pulls it out. But in my experience, that doesn't matter because it'll block out. And if it doesn't, you can just yank a bit on the sides and wiggle it around, and that helps. It really does. So, okay, that's it. You're good. So, that completes our journey for today. Next week, at some point to be determined, I will continue with this chart and then hopefully get much farther in clue 1 than we have tonight. So, and I do feel like I've gotten sort of more into the groove. So, this last one I had no mistakes on that row, which if you noticed, was kind of surprising. So, um, once you get into that groove, things turn out better. So here's the blue side, which may be a bit easier to see on this in this light, but there you go. Okay. Have a good night, everybody, and I will see you sometime next week.